Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Victoria Scott, Six Pack Chick, and I am here at Fit Club today to show you guys my top 3 delt exercises to build 3D delts. Now this video was a popular request that I received from you guys after doing my other 3 videos, glutes, quads, and hamstrings, where I showed you guys my top 3. Again, these are my personal top 3. I'm not saying these are the greatest exercises in the world. They're just 3 of my favorites that I found have been very effective for me to help build my delts and just have a more rounded 3D look. Now it does take a lot of time to build delts. I know for myself, it was something that I struggled with for many, many years. So I've taken tips from different friends over the years who have helped me fine tune how I train, some different techniques to hit progressive overload without going super heavy, and also getting the right volume. So I'll talk a little bit about that more in this video. So let's go. All right, so the first exercise that we're gonna start with is a rear delt fly. And I think it's important to start with rear delts because it's often an under-trained and underutilized muscle. So it's a very small muscle as well. That's the muscle that runs right behind your delts. So it's this one right here. And it's because it is so small, you're not going to be able to load that muscle, especially if you're a female, as much as you would if you did a shoulder press or if you worked any other larger muscle group. It is a very small muscle. So the way to progress on this is going to be through doing other techniques and using different angles to try to challenge yourself further. By that, I mean doing things like drop sets, rest pauses, myo reps. It could be changing up your range of motion, changing up the angle. But I like to do these I'm doing a seated version. This is a dual cable system. Your gym might not have this, so you might need to do a standing version. Or if you only have access to a single cable, you might just do a single arm straight across. Which I also like to do from time to time just because it is nice to incorporate some unilateral exercises into your training, especially if you are somebody who struggles with imbalances. If you're new to weight training, you might notice right off the bat that one side is stronger than the other, and it's a great way to work on those weak points. So play around with that and see if you have a weaker side or stronger side that you maybe want to prioritize training in that way. So I'm going to show you guys 2 versions. One is going to be a fly and one is going to be a row. It's a rear delt row. With the fly, because your arms are going to be more straight, you're not going to be able to load the weight as much, but you're going to be able to get a nice stretch across the body. And you can do things, like I said, with drop sets, etc., to work on that progressive overload. With the seated row, you're gonna have your arms more at like a 45-degree angle. So you're not gonna keep the elbows close to your body like what you do with a traditional row to work your lower lats. And you're not gonna have your arms high where you work your upper back. You're gonna have the arms angled. Because the elbows are bent and you're squeezing this muscle, you're gonna be able to work the rear delts, but you're also gonna be able to load much heavier because you have more leverage with a bent elbow. And that would be true too if you were using dumbbells. You could do a bent row with that, with bent elbows, keeping the elbows kind of at an angle, and that would also hit the rear delts. So I'll demonstrate these for you guys as well. So form tips on this one, some form tips and techniques. First thing you'll notice, I really do stretch my arms far forward. So it's almost like the shoulders sort of come out of the sockets a little bit. You don't want to have the arms totally back. When you stretch the arms out of the sockets, you get a greater stretch in that rear delts. You do want to make sure that you do keep your shoulders down away from your ears. You don't want to be shrugging upward. And the other thing you'll notice, also have a really slow tempo on that eccentric. So a hard contraction as I'm opening, and then when I'm going back to starting position, I'm controlling the weight, almost resisting it and guiding it back into place. And I think that's where a lot of people miss out on some gains. They just relax on that eccentric, where it's so important to take it nice and slow and keep that tension. With this dual cable system as well, I'm very careful not to let the cable attachments like clank together. That means you're letting tension off the muscle. So there shouldn't be any clanking at all. The last thing that I would also play around with is you'll notice I actually have my thumbs turned a little bit downwards when I do this exercise. With having the thumb level or pointed downwards, I find that I get a little bit more rear delt when I have a little bit more of a downward angle to my hands. And when I open, you can open a little bit high, you can open straight shoulder length, you can open shoulder height. Play around with that as well, because based on your specific anatomy and any limitations that you might have or past injuries or anything like that, you might just notice you feel it in a different spot. So it's going to be kind of up to you to play around with that and see where you feel it the most. Most of these tips that I'm telling you are also going to apply to the rear delt row. Like I said, the only difference really from the rear delt row to a regular seated row is that the elbows are going to be out a little bit at a 45-degree angle. And again, you want to make sure you're getting a nice lengthening when you're in the stretch position. You want to stretch out as far as you possibly can, and then drive from the elbows. Drive the elbows back like you're going to kind of elbow somebody, and then you're squeezing this rear delt here. Actually, you can also load this one quite heavy. So when I was doing the rear delt flies, you can see I was only using the 5-pound plate. I'm going to go ahead and I'm literally driving this all the way up to 27. Because you can load the rear delt row a little bit more, you can achieve more progressive overload in terms of increasing the weights and really load the muscle with weight. Whereas with the fly, because the arms are straight and the pivot point is further away from your hand, you can only load it so heavy. Again, it's a very small muscle, it can only take so much. For myself, when I do even dumbbell flies, I rarely go higher than like 15 pounds. And I've been lifting weights for a very long time. So you're not gonna increase so much on this body part every single week or every single month or every single year, frankly. It's such a small muscle group. So you've got to be using other techniques to hit that progression. Okay, so we're moving on to exercise number 2, which is the dumbbell lateral raise. And now this isn't a new exercise for most of you guys. If you've been in the gym for a while, you probably have done this move 1,000 times. And if you're new, you're probably like, what the heck is that? So this would be an exercise that I'm going to do every single week. I include it in all of my delts exercises. Even if I train delts twice in a week, I will always do this exercise. I like using the dumbbells specifically because I can get really, really good range of motion, and I also can adjust my arms to an angle that's comfortable for me. And what I mean by that is I do have some shoulder mobility challenges that I'm constantly working on. So sometimes lifting out a certain direction or having my arm kind of stuck in a certain angle because of a machine becomes problematic for me. So I like to focus on using dumbbells and getting my arm into a position where it's comfortable for me. I can do the exercise to my best ability, pain-free, and really still get a good workout. Now with this exercise, I'm going to get full range of motion, meaning I'm going to lift my arms up as high as I can with the dumbbells and bring them down right to my thighs. I don't bring them all the way close together at the bottom because I don't want to take tension off the muscle. So I do keep a little bit of space there, about 1.5 feet between the dumbbells at the lower half of the lift, so that there's constant tension throughout the entire set. And I'll do as many of these as I need to. Usually it's somewhere between 12 and upwards towards 25 reps, depending on the weight that I use. And once I burn out from that, then I will reduce the height, I'll reduce the range of motion and just go to about shoulder height to finish out and get a little bit more burn. This is the way that I found it been very successful for me to get progressive overload without having to lift heavy weights. Because let's face it, the delts are a smaller muscle group, particularly for women. And so the weight increments that you're able to increase from week to week or month to month is going to be very small. So one of the ways that I like to do, one of the ways I like to really burn out the delts is to work on range of motion. I do more reps, and then I do things like drop sets, mechanical drop sets, holds, isometric holds are also a really great tactic to use, and even like pulses, like quarter reps. When you start to incorporate these things, the weight selection doesn't matter as much, and you will get an insane pump. The last thing that I want to note is my hand positioning. Like I mentioned in the other exercise for rear delts, I like to angle my thumbs a little bit towards the floor. I do this same thing with the lateral raise. So either think about angling your thumb towards the floor like you're pouring out a glass of milk, or I even think about bringing my knuckles towards the mirror and keeping the knuckles towards the mirror the whole time. And that way you'll really hit that medial head of the delts, right? The middle delt right there. And you should feel a nice burn the entire time. That's a little bit of pre-workout, some beta alanine, and these exercises. All right, so third and final exercise for today of my 3 favorites is an incline bench front delt raise. And this is a mechanical drop set. So basically what I'm gonna do is as many reps as I can on the incline, and then I'm gonna sit up and do more reps. So basically by changing the angle, you're reducing the weight. When you're on an incline bench, I'm gonna demonstrate with 10 pounds. When you're on the incline bench, it feels heavier because of gravity. So once you've maxed out there and you sit up, now you've removed the gravity piece just a little bit, so you've taken the edge off just a little bit, and so you can rep out a few more. So it's a way of doing a drop set without actually changing the amount of weight in your hand. So basically you're changing the angle. You can do this with a lot of other exercises as well. But I love using this technique and this combo for front delts, which is right here. For those of you who are new here, we're working the front delts. So tips with this one, when you're in the incline position, you want to make sure that you start with your arms fully hanging straight down. The elbows don't need to be perfectly locked, but you do want the arms straight. And then you want to lift by only isolating the front delts. You don't want to be hoisting them up and shrugging and using your upper body at all. You want to squeeze the front delts and then lift the dumbbells up at a nice, even cadence all the way up into about forehead height. So you're gonna see I go quite high on these. It's as much range of motion as you possibly can. And then once you lower down, you're gonna control at the same pace, maybe even a slight bit slower. So it's about a 2 to 3 second count up and a 2 to 3 second count down. At the bottom of the motion, you do not swing, you don't pause, you go right into that next rep. Another thing that you'll notice is I still angle my hands a little bit. So like I did in the other 2 exercises, I have my thumbs, in this case, angled in towards each other. So not down towards the floor, but angled in toward each other. It's almost like you're making a V with the dumbbells. And then the last thing to think about is you want to make sure that you're keeping the hands and arms as close to the body. They shouldn't be flaring outwards. You want to keep them so that the dumbbells are almost scraping your thighs on the way up and on the way down. And so even when you sit up and you continue to do more reps, you still want to keep the dumbbells close to your body. And then again, keep all those same tips in place. There is no swinging. It should be nice and controlled on the way up and on the way down. And then again, you're bringing the dumbbells to forehead heights. So those are my favorite 3 delt exercises that I personally love to do. I do them every single week. I hope you guys got some value out of this video and learned a few things. And please do try some of these tips, try some of these techniques, and let me know how it goes. Now, as I was doing this, I was thinking of so many other moves. I love training delts, so I was thinking of so many other moves that I wanted to include in this. But like I said, I was keeping it to 3. If I was to only do 3 moves for my delts, this would be it. But I do have more, so I do want to do a full delt workout for you guys to show you several more of my other favorite exercises that I love to do. Probably be my favorite delt workout ever, I think is what I'll call it. Because like I said, I love training delts. I have found over the years that training with higher volume, so more repetitions, definitely more frequency as well. In my earlier days, I would only do maybe 3 or 4 exercises total, maybe 3 sets of 15, something like that, whatever Cosmo says, right? Whatever in the magazines back then. Yes, magazines, you guys. I'm 40. I read magazines. There was no Instagram. There was no, it's barely a YouTube. But over the years, I've had the pleasure of working with some awesome bodybuilders and learned some things over the years. And I've really found that training a little more frequency, if you're a woman who's trying to build a little bit more fullness to the delts, you're not gifted in that area, 2, maybe even 3 times a week, lots of volume, and definitely trying to go a bit heavier as much as you can, and then utilizing some of these other techniques to really push the progressive overload where you can. So I hope you guys found this video helpful, and please let me know in the comments what body part you want to see next.